Okay. And then I can just pick up from there.
Let me tell you how nerdy I am.
Okay.
On YouTube, I follow this channel called The Tech Bench. And this dude, he's an electrical engineer. He does some cool stuff. But he definitely has a video so he reviews multimeters. And he has got a video of using one of his multimeters to check the precision of his other multimeter.
As you were starting to describe it, I knew exactly where you were going with it, and I love it. Like, it's not something I would watch personally or follow personally, but the fact that I know that exists and didn't have to be surprised by any level speaks to the fact that we walk the same circles and follow the same videos.
yeah. And you know what? It's like, like one of these, some of these videos he's had out for, I'm trying to see he doesn't have that many videos, but he keeps putting them out. Like he's got one, so his most recent video is from 10 months ago and his oldest video is from 9 years ago. So he's not consistently putting things out. And I think he's just putting stuff out there that he wants to put out there, something that's interesting, something when he feels like making a video. But I want to say, like, he's got at least one video that's on how to measure a CR 2032 coin cell battery. He uploaded it 8 years ago, and it's got 222,000 views. But most of them are like under 10,000 views.
No, so it doesn't surprise me that people would run into that with the 2032. I don't know how many times I've ended up buying a packet of batteries that should be perfectly good based on, the estimated shelf life and everything else, only to have like the first 2 or 3 that I pull out of the package actually be DOA. And it's something that shouldn't happen in general. But at the same time, like, how many people would just toss it and grab another one out of the package?
So many people.
And I think it's a QA problem, technically, from the perspective of this being a repetitive cycle that I've seen. But I also don't know if it's just a storage problem or something else similar by buying the batteries where I have purchased them.
Interesting.
It's just, I never would have even thought to check them every time I use one, if not for the fact that it felt like in the Ecobee remote sensors, I would put a battery in to solve the range disconnect kind of things, only for it to continue doing it. And it's like, well, come on, I just replaced the battery. What gives? And I put another one in and it would go away. Everything would actually finally be fine. So then every time I pulled a 2032 from the package, I test it before I even use it. Because this just go back to the 2032 being the most prolific coin cell style battery, or type style battery that I use in multiple devices. Because, car remotes, the Ecobee sensors,
AirTags,
plenty of other things.
They're yeah, I think Apple specifically used that battery in the AirTags to make it replaceable.
And the Philips Hue motion sensors that I have use 2032s.
I want to go back to this Tech Bench guy, his channel. The other reason that's it's good is he hasn't. I don't think he's intending to, but he's an ASMR style video because he's a relatively soft-spoken South African. I'm assuming his accent is South African. But he's got an oscilloscope. He's got a desktop power supply, or a bench power supply. Where he can choose direct current, alternating current, and and the voltage he wants to output and the amperage and so forth. And I'm just like, I'd like to do a job where I need those things and use those things on a regular basis.
All in all, it sounds like a very nice setup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But he'll pull open some electronic device because he's opened access points. He's opened like LED lights. He's done a teardown of LED light bulb. He opened his power supply. But he's like, oh yeah, there's that, and he'll like name off what capacitor that is. And I'm like, he knows these electrolytic. He knows what upon first sight he knows what the what the electrolytic capacitor that's on the board is. He's like, oh, I know these capacitors, and these were good capacitors, and these other capacitors over here, these were not. Like he'll tell you like the good capacitors and the bad capacitors, the cheap ones and so forth. And I'm just like, whoa. And he recognizes chips, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's normal for a I'm assuming electrical engineer. I don't know if that's a normal thing, but I look at that and it's like, I'd have to just look and know, or look at a schematic to know what he's, to understand, to know what he's talking about.
I feel like it's probably, I'm sure it would depend on what you're actually doing as an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
But I could see where in certain positions or certain types of positions that would happen. Because, like thinking about our general experiences, I could see where identifying a piece of hardware on site could be, oh, that was a good particular model, or that was a kind of questionable thing, or that airport model was phenomenal, or that Apple TV model was garbage. There is a certain level of that from a full component perspective that I could see translating into, if your job is to deal with how to integrate these electrical components, you'd probably be more apt to identify the components.
Yeah, here's more nerdiness, but there's some videos that I've watched on a regular basis. Some from people where they've got people who build PC integrated circuit boards, and they know the chips, and to me that seems more straightforward than maybe capacitors and fuses. But I think you're right. I think it's like, if you're like looking at these it's like there's probably like thousands of different types of capacitors in the world, but how many? But maybe there's only like a dozen that is used over and over and over again. And so you would come to recognize those pretty often, because they're probably the most popular capacitors probably in almost every device.
Well, and even using the example of chips, like if you're thinking about circuit boards, I could absolutely see where, this north bridge is decent, this south bridge is garbage kind of thing, being and that it's going to be either Intel or AMD or Broadcom or Foxconn. Like there's maybe four, and I'm just pulling names, but typically speaking, it's going to be an Intel chipset or an AMD chipset, and you're going to call it a day.
Well, I was even thinking about in terms of like, I don't know what they're used for, but Texas Instruments still makes, I think it's the 8085, which was inside of computers 40 years ago, but they're still making it for some. They're still making brand new ones, and there's some application. Certainly not computers anymore, because it's not where chips have gone. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I know Texas Instruments was predominantly. Well, no, I take that back. I was thinking of U.S. Robotics. I was thinking about the modem chipsets.
Oh yeah,
and that was U.S. Robotics was huge in that space.
I remember
Texas Instruments. Yeah, TI has had multiple chipsets for multiple different things. They even made the Apple chips at one point.
Yep.
The integrated systems chips.
That's one of these chips that they were using in Apple computers in the early to mid 80s as a chip that they're still making. Motorola made chips that went into Apple computers for quite some time.
Yes. It's one of those things I do wonder sometimes, or wonder's maybe not the right word. I find it interesting when I run across things where, like, someone has done a teardown and there's this particular chipset used for this particular purpose, and used for this purpose for years and years and years before there's some other iteration. I don't know why I find it interesting when I run across those, other than because everything else when you're talking about these devices tends to feel like it changes every single year, if not more than once in a year, that it's nice to see when something is built in a way that makes it perfect for the job it needs to perform and maintains that level of performance and perfection for more than just a particular cycle.
Well, I think it's very cool because it's like it helps give insight into what the regular practices are for research and development in engineering. So when you see, so like I feel like my first exposure to it is with Apple devices where they're reusing SoCs for, so like whatever SoC was in the newest iPhone, a few years later that might end up in some other device, and it's like, why wouldn't you make your, why and then seeing that like the 8085 is still being made by Texas Instruments, and maybe it's going into toaster ovens, I don't know. It just like allowed me to realize that this is a standard practice. It's like, we have this really good chip, why wouldn't we use it everywhere?
Yeah, and on top of that, the example you gave like illustrates it, but you didn't call it out. So I just want to add to that. There's also a point where the chip was extremely cutting edge for its time, and then as it becomes more cost effective, opens the door to new features and things in other products that never would have thought about doing that if not for the cost effectiveness of what this chip has finally gotten to, like the toaster oven model. It may have been something that was really heavy duty from a compute perspective 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, take your pick. And then now we're at a point where it's fairly ubiquitous, fairly inexpensive. The yield on manufacturing is close to 100%. And whoever makes this toaster oven can now add like auto shut-off and certain timer features and maybe an algorithmic cooking particular setting for detecting the amount of moisture to try to figure out how defrosted or frozen something is on this one particular setting. Things that bring value to those devices that we're not able to do previously, but at the same time are not overly revolutionary in what they need a device to be capable of delivering. It just needed that extra little bit of capability that now is at an affordable price.
Yes. A little real-time follow-up. The 8085 was made by Intel, not Texas Instruments, and it was discontinued in 2000, but it ran for 24 years. Introduced in 1976 and discontinued in 2000. That's a long time for a chip to run. The Texas Instrument chip that I was thinking of, I don't remember. But it's something. Fine. It's been around for. If some nerd like us who is
who happens to stumble across the show.
Yes, they would call that out. I would call that out. Yeah. At least in my head.
That's a nice little fun detour from. I enjoy those kinds of detours. It's classic our conversations. I think that makes for a good show.
Yeah.
So one of the not to just completely cut it off, but I actually have a question that I wanted to get to.
Okay.
So one of the topics that I put in was a portable waterproof speaker.
That's the one that doesn't fit everything else. It's like, which one of these is different?
What I was thinking about the other day was I remember us talking about you having specific experiences with a portable speaker that I couldn't remember which one it was. I thought it was the Ultimate Ears one, but I wasn't sure. And so my use case, we'll start there. My thought is that now that I'm going to have a proper outdoor space and not just, in the driveway, I would kind of like a decent speaker to take outside and have music when I have a fire. Now, I have two different paths that I could go down because of me being who I am. I have a receiver capable of a secondary zone that I could run wired indoor-outdoor speakers to the patio area, which is something that I might very well do by the time it's all said and done. But if there is a good portable Bluetooth speaker that gives me decent sound quality, I think there's a very compelling reason to not run speaker wire out to the patio and rely on this portable speaker instead, because the portable speaker that I was using finally died. And so I need to replace one anyway, and it would solve the purpose of both having a speaker in the patio area and, when I want it, being able to have a portable speaker elsewhere when I'm doing something else, like in the garage or whatever, however I would have used a portable speaker up to this point. And so I was looking around at options, and I realized JBL has multiple options that all point to being decent, but there's such a wide price disparity. It's like, how do you choose which one? Why would I choose this one? Blah, blah, blah. And then there's a certain laziness on, I just don't want to do the research at the moment. And that's what led me to, I remember us having a discussion, and I wanted to get your specific input on your experiences with portable waterproof speakers.
Yeah, so I have a UE Megaboom from 2016. I picked it up at the Apple Store because I was like, oh yeah, I want a portable speaker, and it happens to be water. I don't know what I don't want to say waterproof because it's
It's the IP67 stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like water resistant for
Yes.
30 minutes or whatever,
Yeah.
and blah blah blah.
And it was nice because I knew that I could I could actually take it on a kayak and use it and not worry about it being damaged. I don't know. Right now, I think they're on the Megaboom 3. This might be the first iteration, but I have really liked it. I didn't realize it, but UE is owned by it's an LG company, or it's owned by LG. No, not LG. Logitech. Logitech. Who makes the mice?
Logitech.
Yeah,
That's
Logitech.
got to be a fairly recent development. Well, let me rephrase. So I had a pair of Ultimate earbuds back in 2008, 2009, something like that, wired earbuds. At that time, Ultimate Ears was its own company. So when I say relatively recent, I mean between the time that I looked into Ultimate Ears and today, which is actually like a 20-year span.
Yeah. Yeah, it was acquired by Logitech in 2008. So,
So very shortly after I was introduced to
Yeah.
them as a company.
so I just thought maybe that it didn't occur to me that they bought their own. Anyway, I got the Mega Boom, and it's definitely better than the Boom. I was impressed by the sound quality of it, and it's nice. It's got a line in. So I primarily use it with Bluetooth, but it's also got a line in if you would like to do that. And I've even gone so far as to set up multiple speaker outputs on a Mac Mini and play music. So I had wired speakers connected to the 8mm audio jack on the back of the Mac Mini, and then there's something in the software where you can actually add additional speakers, and so I added it as a Bluetooth speaker for a different level, like in a multi-level house. It was like one set of speakers was playing in the main level, and then that Mega Boom was downstairs in the basement playing this exact same music, and that was really cool. There was a little bit of a delay, but because the intention was to be in a different location, didn't matter. So
Interesting.
Yeah, I
So
thought it was cool.
One of the things that I came across when I was starting to do a little bit of limited research, the certain JBL models have this party mix or party mode, something, I don't remember what they call it, but it allows you to take two of those compatible devices and pair them. So if I were to get two of these speakers and put them outside. I could do a stereo pair with one on either side of the patio, and then play music to them, kind of thing, which I thought was a nice added functionality. But then you think about the price tag of having two of the devices. Like, well, that kind of negates the purpose of my inquiry in the first place. Like, if I'm going to pay that much for this, I'm just going to buy two wired speakers and have phenomenal sound quality out of the rest of my stuff, because I know that's going to play everywhere without a problem. And so it was there's definitely a balancing act there. And what I realized was, if I'm going to go the portable speaker route, it has to be a single speaker that sounds really good, that I could potentially use in ways that I don't necessarily envision. And the what I mean by that is exactly what you described, where if you ended up with, let's just say I plug in my old Harman Kardon sound sticks into the Mac and play music off of that, I could still add this on the extra output outside in a separate location, and it would serve the purpose that I'm looking for. And so that's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, so I've used that. So the Megaboom or the UE devices have that feature where you can make a stereo pair. I've actually done a boom and my Megaboom, and it's nice. And there's also like a party mode where you can have people download the Megaboom app, or the Boom, whatever that app is, and you can have people like either queue up music or request music, and so there's kind of a DJ mode there, which I thought was pretty cool. I haven't made good use of that, but so I never intended to buy a second speaker, but I did use it when a friend had his speaker. A friend brought his speaker and I had my speaker, and we're like, hey, let's make this work together, and it was pretty cool.
Makes sense. I think the JBL ones have a similar feature.
At this point, I expect that somebody's going to come up with this idea to implement in their app that works with their device, and then everyone else will follow suit, because none of this can be patented, because it's it's not novel.
Yeah, for sure. And so just to I realize that I haven't disclosed why I tend to look at JBL products in general. The speakers I use for my home theater are all JBL series speakers, because those were the ones that I liked most when I was putting everything together back however many years ago. So a lot of times, because I know their general speaker profile, I will look at what they offer first, because I at least know from a sound perspective it's going to match what I'm accustomed to most of the time. That said, I've loved Ultimate Ears since my first set of earbuds. And so it's going to be real interesting for me to actually sit down and compare feature by feature the Ultimate Ears offerings and the JBL offerings, and figure out which one I might go with. Because it's bound to be one of the two. There's no reason for me to go to a different brand.
Yeah. You know the quality of what you're looking at.
Yeah. And all of that feeds into this other item, actually, that I put in here, because we've had a brief offline kind of back and forth mentioning it, but I wanted to bring it to a public forum, so to speak, and try to figure out maybe what the hell I'm going to do with an outdoor space that I have no clue what to do with. And so this other item is, where we're moving, I'm going to have a proper patio for a change, and I have not had that in the past decade. I've had to instead use like the driveway if I wanted to use a concrete space, or figure out something in a very small little confined area. And I actually have room to properly do something outside, and I'm at a complete loss at what I want to do.
I have recommendations.
I would like to hear them.
So I have a friend who he's got a patio space, and he has his solo stove sitting out in his patio space, and he's got furniture set up around it, and it's quite nice. After having used his patio furniture, which is very comfortable, I I know that when I buy patio furniture, it's going to be like some good quality stuff. He's got, I want to say he spent probably, he knows what I probably spent a grand or two on the patio furniture. I think he's got like 4 chairs and like a love seat style chair and that glides and so forth. But the big thing about it is like he's had that stuff out in his yard for over 10 years, unprotected from, he's not done anything to protect it from UV exposure, and it is like, it almost feels brand new. Like it is, the chairs are comfortable and there's no noticeable wear and tear, which is kind of amazing. And so I thought, if you think about it, like that is, I don't hate using the word investment, but I feel like it's a good purchase. Like it's a smart purchase. And
so that alone sells me on wanting to know more about what brand he chose and et cetera.
Yeah.
Only because everything I have ever purchased for outdoor spaces has shown its age probably in the 5 to 8 year range, depending on how like quality it quote unquote was to begin with. Some of them a little bit shorter, some of them a little bit longer, but I have never had anything last more than roughly 8 years.
Yeah,
ever in my lifetime.
I know we got it from Absco, local chain of stores in our area, and they I know that they make nice. I know that they sell nice. They sell nice things there, but that the whole, like he's not out there abusing that stuff. His kids aren't too rough on it, but it's been out in his backyard for over 10 years, and it's like in great shape. And I've been over at his house, and like we've like taken those, they're very comfortable chairs, and like we've taken them out to the front yard, and he lives on a cul-de-sac. We've sat out in the cul-de-sac and watched the kids play, and so like it's not like they're just sitting there, but like he's moving them to and from places, so they are not, certainly not being abused, but they are not, they're not hermetically sealed in a in a display unit or anything like that. So,
and to be clear, like the issues that I've had with everything I've ever purchased for outside is strictly related to UV exposure and deterioration. It's not destruction from a standpoint of a person jumping on them or whatever. All of the stuff that I've ever put outside has always deteriorated as a result of exposure to the elements. And so that one piece is more than enough for me to go take a look at it. That
was my exact sentiment. It's like, what, 10? At the time that we were actually talking about it, had been almost 10 years. That time frame has passed, where I know that it's been more than a decade that he's had those chairs outside. One, they're comfortable, like they're chairs that you could sit in for hours and not go uncomfortable, like a nice couch in your home, or a nice chair in your home, or a nice desk chair. And the fact that they are, have resisted the UV. I even remember talking to him about, I don't know if you are familiar with the, I can't remember what it's called, but something 303. It's a UV protectant spray.
I do know what I have heard a reference to this thing that you're talking about. I do not know it very well. So I get at least the idea of what you're referencing.
So it protects plastics from UV exposure. I have some to put on. I got it to put on the hatches of my kayak, because those plastics are, for whatever reason, they don't. Actually, I've seen where they have warped. I don't know if it was warped from sun exposure, but I've seen those hatches warp, and so I noticed that mine were, even just like the first summer that I used it, that were affected by the sun, and so I bought that protectant for it. And anyway, I was asking him about it, and he's like, yeah, because I know that I learned about it from him, and he's like, because I remember him saying, he's like, I haven't even used the 303 on the chairs. That's just, they came from the factory this way. So yeah. The combination of being so comfortable and so durable is a reason to spend the money on it, because it's if you know that you're going to have a comfortable chair for the next 10 to 15 years, yeah, or even longer. So it was I thought it was I was amazed by it. So
Yeah, I went ahead and pulled up their website and have it bookmarked real quick while we were talking because it, like, literally, that's the one thing
Yeah.
that is just absolutely a requirement for me.
At this point,
And
I
it's,
was gonna say, at this point, I want to call up my friend and be like, "Hey, can I bring Jesse over and try out your chairs?" I told him how long you've had them outside, and he'd be totally for it. But he and you are the reason why I was like, "Oh, I got a solo stove," and then now I know 3 other people that have indirectly gotten solo stoves because of you and him.
it's fascinating when you actually start to trace that, isn't it? Not to take us on that tangent, but I have to with this particular conversation. So with the solo stove, my former next door neighbors got the solo stove because of me. We had a conversation about it, and I saw like 3 or 4 weeks later he had ordered one and got it, kind of thing. The neighbor behind me got one after that because he and the neighbor beside me were good friends, and they were talking about it, and so he got one. And like I've watched solo stoves crop up in the neighborhood as a chain of events from that sequence.
Yep.
And so I do wonder how many solo stoves have been sold because of me and my decision to expose like 2 or 3 people overall to the enjoyment of those. And then on the flip side of it, like the other part that to me is fascinating, former coworker of ours who has a relatively prolific social media account also has a solo stove, and I had never discussed it with him, and happened to post a picture of the secondary burn at some point, and then turn around and realize that he's doing the exact same thing, and seeing that crossover is just kind of hilarious. To see how ubiquitous a quality product can permeate an environment and a market.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of at first it seemed kind of sketchy to me because it's like they're always having a sale, but it is one of the it's a very high quality product.
Yeah, their marketing and their sales side of things is extremely meh. I'm not going to say it's shady, so to speak, because it's very clear what they're doing. They're being sensationalistic in their ads to
Yes.
try to make you feel like you're getting a good buy. It's a fairly typical ploy when you get to online retailers. I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
It's the one thing that makes me dislike the company as a whole. But at the same time, the quality of the product, the quality of the customer service, the fact that you've got that lifetime guarantee with it, it's just, okay, I can ignore your very uncomfortable selling tactics because of what you actually do.
Yeah, I was going to say I can ignore this one. It's not a minor thing, but it's not a major thing. It's a sort of medium thing.
Right. It's one of those things that if you actually pay attention, you know what they're doing. It's not like you're caught off guard. And so, like, the way I approach it is when I want to buy something else from them, I know what price they typically are, and I watch and see the fluctuations. Oh, this sale still hasn't the same price that it typically is. And, oh, this sells a little bit better. Is it good enough that I want to buy it? Not quite.
Yeah.
Oh, this sale is actually really good. This
Yep.
is the price that I want to pay for, and this is the one I'll buy,
Yes.
So I get it, and it's just uncomfortable.
I've never seen it. So I have never seen things sold for full price, quote unquote, full price on their website.
Yes, that's really the big takeaway.
And that being the case, you quickly figure out what it is they're doing. And I remember sitting around and watching. Every once in a while I'd see an advertisement or I'd go check, and I would just sit around and wait and see. And then one day I was like, that's the lowest I've ever seen the bonfire. I'm going to buy it. I was living in an apartment, so I couldn't even use it at the time. But I was like, that's the lowest I've ever seen the bonfire. I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And I did.
I'm going to take this on a little bit of a tangent real quick. So I don't use Facebook very often at all. Like, in general, my use of Facebook is indirect posting because I posted something to Instagram and I have it also cross-post to Facebook.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I will pull up the app and kind of look through some of the groups I'm a part of. And where this comes into play is the Solo Stove group. I don't even know the name of it. Is one that I'm a part of because I enjoyed the brand enough. It's like, okay, let me at least join it, and then occasionally I'll scroll through and see, what people are doing with their outside spaces or whatever. The reason I bring it up is because there are a lot of general comments about this particular practice that I see in that group that kind of catch me off guard because it's almost like people don't realize this is happening until they have already ordered and are a part of the group and are watching it for a little bit. And to me, it's so readily apparent when you go to the site, and then if you go to the site again a couple of days later, like I do, and it's a different sale, but it's the same price. I don't know. I didn't have that level of shock that was how their particular model that seems to be a common occurrence in the social media side of things. And I remember seeing a comment about it where it was very irate and very toxic in general if you were to think about the way it was written and the way it came across about sales practices. And it caught me off guard because it was really focused on why the price never seems to change, but why it seems to always be on sale. And the reason I paused was because from my standpoint, it was, well, what does it matter? If you never see it for a higher price and you just always see it at this price, why don't you just assume it's this price? Like, what? I don't get the complaint, right? And it wasn't until, 3-4 weeks later that I kind of finally pieced it together. The particular price they were complaining about happened to be like a purchase the one time it was a higher price than it normally was. And so the fact that 90% of the time it was this other price ticked them off. I get it, but come on, if you don't...
You agreed to pay for that.
Do your research. Yeah. I mean...
When you bought it, that's the price you agreed to pay for it.
Exactly. And I don't know. After that, I'd quit paying as much attention.
But
it is still a fun group to be in.
I do get, I would understand that if the price dropped $30 a week after I got mine, I'd be like, hey, and you know what? They have a 30-day return policy. You probably could just call them up and say, hey, I bought this and the price dropped $30 from a week ago. They'd probably give you the $30 back.
Their customer service in all of my experiences has been phenomenal. I've never once had a complaint. I'm willing to bet a simple email would have completely changed that. They might have given the $30 and then some if that was the price at the time.
I was going to say, I really feel like I haven't seen it outside of the bonfire is what I've looked at most, and I really haven't, I've seen the price fluctuate, but not really more than $20. Like the highest price versus the lowest price.
So going back to kind of bringing it back to my question or the
patio
discussion.
Space.
Yeah, but one of the things that I'm struggling with still is how I'm going to store firewood. And I know I mentioned this specifically when we were talking offline. Have you looked at their station at all?
I feel like I've seen it, but I'm at the website right now. Is that under accessories?
Yes, it should be under accessories and then station. So I've looked at this for quite some time, and
I like that.
I like it too, but it's so
So expensive.
friggin' expensive. And
I don't think it would hold enough wood.
that's been my thought as well. Like I really want it because it looks good, it's different, it's unique. For those people who don't want to go look up a product, it's literally a like rectangular cabinet that has a shelf in the middle where you could do firewood on top and bottom if you wanted to, or you could store your fire pit on the top and firewood on the bottom, or vice versa. Like it's that shelf allows you the flexibility of storing a combination of the two, and then it has like weather resistant tarp or cloth or whatever fabric of some sort that folds down over all four sides, and on one side it has
A place for the tools.
custom placed hooks for the specifically branded tools. So it all fits within the ecosystem very well, and it's obviously a very well manufactured piece of equipment because it includes the same lifetime warranty as everything else. But its regular price is what, $550?
It's on here. You could buy it for $529.99.
Okay, so I knew it was over 500. I couldn't remember where it hit.
The
over
margins
500.
on that must be ridiculously good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I keep coming back to, because I can also buy a full cord storage just rack to put wood in with a tarp for less than $100.
I think that's what I'm going to end up doing.
And this particular product from Solo Stove, I don't think it even stores a half cord, much less a quarter cord.
I think that like on one shelf, that's like one night's worth of wood.
Especially if you have the Yukon. If you have the Yukon,
Oh
it
my
might
gosh.
not even make you through a night.
I know one person. That has the Yukon when they made the larger 30-inch Yukon.
Yeah, I almost ordered one of those, and I'm glad I didn't.
She says it's awesome.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Like I have no doubt it's a phenomenal product. I just could not afford to feed it wood.
Right. Well, when I asked her, I was like, "Did you get?" I was like, "Yeah." I remember saying, I was like, they used to make a 30-inch and they have a 27-inch now. I was like, "Which one?" She's like, "I got the big one. I got the 30-inch one." I was like, "Okay." I wasn't trying to mansplain it. Yeah, I'm here.
Now I hear you.
Oh, okay. I told her, I wasn't trying to mansplain anything to you, but I was just like, I didn't know that there were, people out there that I didn't know that I would know somebody who would have the 30-inch Yukon.
Yeah. Everybody that I know has the bonfire. I only know a few people that don't have the bonfire and have the Ranger instead, but I don't know anybody directly with the Yukon.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I don't think I have a big enough space for that. I can see how it's the right outdoor fireplace for a really large space.
Absolutely. So when I got my bonfire, it was when they first introduced it. The Yukon did not exist. I got mine in on the crowdfunding side with the bonfire. They did the Yukon after that, and I was so very close to getting one of those too. And I'm glad I didn't, just because of the standpoint of trying to feed it would be very cost prohibitive if I were to use it like I use the bonfire. But the bonfire fits that almost perfect size that I had enough experience with it. It's like I don't know that I need anything bigger. And if I do, I want to go like massively bigger. I want a proper, out in the county, middle of nowhere, big ass bonfire if I'm going to go bigger than the Solo Stove bonfire fire pit. And that realization was a positive from the standpoint of not spending more money, but it also helped me kind of understand what I was looking for when I wanted to sit and enjoy a fire in an outdoor space. And what I wanted was almost exactly what the bonfire size offered.
I think the bonfire is like a great size. I think it's 24 inches.
That sounds about right. I think I do think it could be ever so slightly larger, only because if you buy pre-cut firewood from somebody, it tends to be just a hair larger than the bonfire can accept.
Yeah.
Not by much, but just enough that it's kind of frustrating. And it would be nice if it were to, encapsulate that size.
The last time the current firewood that I currently have is from a tree that I had cut down in my yard, and I specifically told them to cut it at a certain size so that it would fit in the solo stove.
So I'm going to add a topic that's not in our list just because it's fun. Based on a random video you sent me, I have this fun tool that I am hoping will be my easy way to address the size of what remaining wood I have for the solo stove. And if not, oh well, it's going to be fun to use anyway.
I know, but I just now made the connection of what you're talking about.
Yes, the Viking wood splitter is this long sword that I intend to use to take the remaining firewood that I have once I'm in the new place and have a good place to do it, and put it and chop it, hopefully in half or whatever proportion happens to actually be cut up when I swing this massive ass, really heavy fucking piece of steel. And it's going to be fun, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I hope that it makes the resulting wood fit in the bonfire a little bit better. But even if it doesn't, it's going to be so much fun to do that I don't care.
I think it's going to be awesome.
The main thing I need to find is a relatively healthy tree base as a stump, I think. And I don't have one of those currently. And so it would be nice to find that before I go trying to do this thing. But I do have some older seasoned wood that is not cut up yet either. That was, I wouldn't say it's big. It's bigger than a typical piece of firewood. So it's big enough for this use case that I could probably get away with it. But it would only be for this current crop of wood that I've got. I need to definitely find a proper base stump to use in the future after I go through the wood that I've got. And at least I will have a space to do that. So
that'll be great. You have a whole backyard.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with that. Like I've been living on this little strip of grass for the most part. I don't know what to do with an actual proper backyard.
You'll figure it out.
I can actually plant something.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else that I definitely want to go into. I know we've got one topic that I didn't go into, but I literally just dropped that as a placeholder because I wasn't sure how much time we could spend with the others. So I don't necessarily want to bring that one in.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen what you're talking about, but I haven't really. I have been honestly avoiding finding out more about that because it's only going to be upsetting. I think it's only going to be upsetting.
I've looked at a couple of articles. There's just so little that's conclusive.
Yes.
Why do we even make an article about it?
Because somebody's doing something. That's why.
Yeah. So it's the kind of thing that I want to keep an eye on it and follow it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily want to talk about it until there's more information.
I think that's where I am with it as well. It's like. Yeah. Like at some point, yes, I do want to know. Like no matter how upsetting the answer is, I want to know conclusively. But at this point, where it's like it could be, everybody, I keep saying it could be this, but we don't know for sure, So,
or it could be this, but we have fairly low confidence in this, conclusion.
Yeah. So we're we're just.
So with that said, I want to end instead with a different statement or topic or thing in general. I think we've mentioned it on the show. If not, then out of 130-something episodes, this will be the first time that quote-unquote healthy pores gets mentioned on the show.
We haven't mentioned this.
And if anybody wants the backstory for what healthy pores means, you're going to have to actually provide feedback and write in. Where I was going with this is in April, I want to have want to host a Healthy Pores session, and wanted to ask you if there was a particular weekend that would work well for you specifically before I start looking at the calendar and figuring out what to say. I'm targeting this. So if it's, keep in mind, it has to be either the second week in April or later, because I'm not planning to try to do something before then. But I wanted to just get your feedback on what would be a good week and what would not, and then I'll kind of send out a mass text from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, actually, Friday the 7th and Friday the 21st are pretty good for me.
So I think between the two, I would probably target the 21st more than the 7th, just because I don't know what level of flux the first part is going to be.
Yeah, I was going to say that's also Easter weekend, if that makes a difference.
Not necessarily, but it's close enough to the move that I don't know how much is going to be boxed and unboxed yet.
No, I knew that you were talking about because of the move.
Yeah. But. So what I think I'll do is I'll send out a message saying the 21st, or is it 21st a Friday or Saturday?
That's a Friday.
So yeah, 21st, and then we'll see what kind of response we get and go from there.
Because the 21st is typically we typically do Healthy Pores on a Friday night.
Yeah, normally, because it allows for recovery on Saturday in our old age.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I can remember I hosted a Healthy Pores in April of 2021, and I remember I didn't realize how much I was drinking that night until the next day. I think I didn't have a hangover, but I was like, I got really drunk, and I looked at how much of that Black Label that we drank, or maybe that I drank, I don't know, but it was like maybe
it was a group effort for sure.
I was gonna say I think it was maybe half the bottle.
So my plan for this particular session, I'm going to crack open the Auchentoshan 21 year.
Oh my God.
And so this is why I want to make sure that at a minimum, you and I are completely on board with the particular date, and hopefully your significant other will be, wanting to join as well. Perfectly open, perfectly not, either way. But the thought is, let's make it a fun, enjoyable, we have reasons to celebrate, fun time.
Well, she's finishing up some traveling this week, so she'll be back. I don't know if I told you this or not. She went so she's been gone for a little over a week now. So Saturday before last, she went. I took her to the airport at 5-something in the morning, because she was headed to Budapest, and she was doing a river cruise expo there, and then she was supposed to be back Sunday night, like 11:30 Sunday night, and her flight got changed to Monday, and then that put her in the middle of at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris in the middle of a strike. And so she was like, I could be sitting there she's like, okay, so first of all, she went to this river cruise expo, so all these river cruise boats are from all these companies are docking in Budapest on the Danube, and which sounds pretty awesome. And they were going to have a sort of like a short cruise after the expo, and she wasn't planning to do that. Well, it turned out that like the owner of her travel network is on that cruise. The top producer from her travel network is on that cruise. The top producer of River Cruises is on that cruise. The head of marketing for that cruise line is on that cruise. So there's just like a whole bunch of social media marketing from her travel network is on that cruise. So there's like a whole bunch of people. She's like, it would be really beneficial for me to talk to them. Even if there was no strike in France, I would have said, yeah, I think you should stay and go on this cruise. Even though I miss you very much, I think it would be good for you, good for your business. And so she said, okay, well, I'm I'm gonna leave it up to circumstance. And so they ended up letting her know that, oh yeah, we do have a room for you. And then she called the airline to change her flights, and they were so happy to change her flight for no fee because they knew that flying through Paris was going to be a bit of a liability. So yeah, they changed her flights free of charge, and they're very happy to do that to keep her out of Paris at the beginning of the week. So
So I didn't know all of that. I did know that she was out of town because I happened to actually be on social media earlier this week, and so I saw that. And how do I phrase it? There's a certain level of I'm jealous of her experiences.
I'm so fucking
and
jealous.
At the same time, like enjoy seeing those experiences.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would describe that otherwise. But yes, it's fascinating to. I will put it this way. She is probably the only reason I actually occasionally check social media to see what experiences she has had over the past 30, 60, 90 days, whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to the random drivel that I see everywhere else.
Yeah. I realized, I was like, you only post when you go somewhere. And then I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's
Yeah, for sure.
So she was in Budapest, and then she was in Bratislava, which is the capital of Slovakia. Then today, that was yesterday. Today she's in Vienna, and I don't know if she's going straight to Passau tomorrow, but that's where the cruise ends, is in Passau, Germany. But I'm like, okay. I think she's about to hit 40 countries in the world that she's been to.
Wow.
Yeah. I will say, there was one time in our relationship where we went to a country that I had been to and she had not been to. And that will never happen again.
Yeah.
Because every other country, neither of us had been to Luxembourg. Well, I don't know if she had been to Luxembourg. I don't think she had been to Luxembourg. But we both went there together, and we both went to St. Lucia together as the first time.
I completely understand. So even though my significant other is not as well traveled, like the places that we've gone typically have been places that one or both of us have been anyway. So like we had both been to Mexico independent of each other. We have not been together, but we've both been to Mexico. When we did our European trip, I had never been over into Europe. She had. So London was quote unquote old hat territory for her, kind of thing. She had already been there. But she had not been into like Liverpool and the other areas that we had been to, and then over into
Scotland.
She had been in Scotland and Ireland, but not in these specific locations that we had been to.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of mix of, yes, this place I've been, this place I know, this place I have not been. So it was kind of nice to have that mix. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I don't know that we have quite the same dynamic because like neither one of us had been to St. Lucia before we went together, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know there are other places she has been that I have not. Like she is more worldly traveled than I am, even if it's not at all close to the same level as you and your significant other. So there's an understanding there, I guess, is what it boils down to.
Oh, totally. I can't remember. I don't remember if I told you this. So when we went to St. Lucia, I'd only ever been at that point in time. That's the second time I've left the country, and the only other place I had been to was Mexico, and it was one time. And we went to St. Lucia, and at this point, she's, been a number. So first of all, her method of traveling in her 20s and early 30s was, she'd work all year long, and then real estate would slow down in November. Her birthday is also in November, so she'd peace out for 3 weeks in November, and she would her choice of destination was based on who's got the least expensive flight, and she'd plan 2 or 3 days and then make up the rest of it as she went along. And she has a travel company now, and she's like, I could never send anyone on a trip the way that I travel. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because people would be freaking out. Like, what do I do?
See, I find that hilarious because I would love that style of travel. I have no problems with the spontaneity and unplanned kind of thing. Like, my significant other is very much against that. It very much has to be planned and known and understood. But I have no problems just walking up to a counter and, you know what, that looks good.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I think I could do it, because she's kind of broken me in on some things related to it. But I just remember on that trip, I was having to navigate while she drove, and the maps that are, I was using Apple Maps and even Google Maps. It'd say there's a road there, but there was no road there. And 2 or 3 times I told her, I was like, you're going to have to turn here. And then she's like, there's no road. And this was early on in our relationship. And, it wasn't, at that point, she was like, I've got feelings for you. But, there was, she wasn't looking long term at that point in time. So I was like, I need to keep her tricked into liking me as long as possible. Because, like, if this could be long term, this would be great. And I remember that being a thing, and I just remember her being a little bit annoyed at me for that. And I was like, it's not my fault. It's really not my fault. And she was a little bit annoyed at me because, like, one of the places that I had chosen to stay, I did not read between the lines, because it was a Airbnb, and it was a private room. It was not the whole place, and that was kind of weird. And so, but it was okay. And I learned how to read between the lines. But I will say, like, I asked her it was like, hey, I asked her, when I was looking for places to stay, I was asking for some input. And I remember one place that she said, nope, don't want to stay here. We actually ended up visiting that place, and she was like, oh, we could have stayed here. And I'm like, I had it on the list. It was like one of my top places. And but we bounced around the island a bit, and I just remember I started driving. I drove one night, and she told me to, like, there's a road here, you're going to turn left, and then, like, there was no road there. And I was like, yes, now you know what I'm talking about. And but I felt like, there's one point she was like, she thought, you're not that well traveled. And then I remember on the way back, I had all of my papers and everything ready, and she was not ready. And I was like, but I do pay attention to detail. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after-show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.